Rock Metal Podcast, Episode 7, with Dirty Lyxx. Boom! Alright, Rock Metal Nation, I've got on the line today Dirty Lyxx, a hard rock metal band influenced by the classic 80s metal. I'm super stoked to have Alika Mattis on, lead guitarist and songwriter of Dirty Lyxx. Welcome to the show, dude.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Why don't you tell Rock Metal Nation a bit about yourself?
I'm a guitar player. I'm the leader of Dirty Lyxx, songwriter. What exactly do you want to know, I guess?
Well, are you like Aries, long walks on the beach? I mean, what inspired you to get into, I guess, a life of music, to pursue the path that you're pursuing?
Okay, yeah. I first got into music. I was pretty young. I wasn't super young, but I was like about 8 years old. I wanted to play, keyboards and like piano. At the time, I was kind of getting into. I was kind of just interested in kind of just, playing different things. I really liked, my dad's a musician. He's a guitar player. And at the time, I kind of wanted to do something a little different than guitar. I was like, well, I'd like to do piano because I remember I also grew up listening to like some of the Bach stuff and, like a lot of really good organists, growing up. And I remember even before I was a guitar player, though, I remember my dad used to play like the Allman Brothers or a lot of different kinds of, rock music. And one of my earliest ones that was kind of like, I guess metal was Deep Purple. My first album was Machine Head, and I wanted to be John Lord from Deep Purple. That was like what I wanted to do. And at a certain point, I started listening to Metallica, and then I kind of decided, well, I really want to play guitar because I really liked what I was hearing from Metallica. And then I heard Pantera, and I heard Dimebag, and I was like, that's over. I've got to play guitar, It was just so it was so like, there were so many possibilities with guitar. And not that there aren't a lot with keyboards and all that stuff, but I don't know. I changed and I eventually became a guitar player, So I really got started with music early on, and but I didn't get started playing guitar until I was about 13, 14 years old. And my dad plays guitar. He doesn't do like metal or anything, but he does like blues, jazz, and he actually teaches for jam play. And he's actually really good guitar instructor, and he's been doing that for many years. I think he's played guitar for like over 50 years.
Oh, wow.
Over 50 years now. And I grew up listening to guys like Eric Johnson and Pat Metheny and Robin Ford. So a lot of like either all styles of music, guitar players, and of course he was one of my early influences. He knew Eddie Van Halen and all those other guys that I started listening to later. Dimebag, he would even listen to it on the radio. He'd be like, "Oh, I think this is Dimebag Darrell's band, Pantera," because he didn't really listen to like Pantera, but he'd say, "Yeah, that sounds like Dimebag Darrell on guitar," and I think that's who it, that's him, or that's Zakk Wylde. He knew their guitar styles, even though he didn't really like listen to that kind of music. So whenever we were listening to like rock radio, he'd point that out or something like that, and he could tell me like what guitar they were using or whatever, by the tone. I grew up, he had a lot of Cream, a lot of stuff like that. He was more into like Santana, Cream, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, that kind of rock, and Black Sabbath too, and stuff like that. So like that kind of rock, that's more of his generation, Yeah. But I got more into other stuff later and stuff. So
Fantastic. Yeah, no, I love that. Starting off as a keyboard player, listening to Bach and the other organ styles, and realized that girls weren't flocking to the organ concerts, I guess. And so then you were just realizing, like, hey, wait a minute, we got to do something where the girls are flocking. And looking at Metallica concerts and Pantera concerts, like, oh, whoa. But no, I remember the first day that I heard Metallica, I was floored. I was like, what is this? And then it just opened up from there. And yeah, I started playing around 10 or 11 years old myself as well with guitar. Mm-hmm. So definitely all the guitar players you mentioned, Eric Johnson, like Cliffs of Dover, one of the
Oh yeah.
yeah, iconic track, right? This is once you learn how to play that, you're like, oh, sweet. And something else you mentioned I thought was really cool as well, for Rock Metal Nation listening in, is the ability to understand other people's guitar styles, especially for any who are listening and who play the guitar and they're kind of concerned, oh, I don't want to sound like everybody else. It's like, well, everybody that you mentioned is playing the E minor blues scale, but yet they all sound vastly different because...
Oh yeah.
You know,
oh yeah,
it's like we all are speaking English right now, but we all speak it differently, and we use our own, you know, way of speaking. So the guitar is absolutely no different. Music is absolutely no different. I'm curious, how did Dirty Lyxx come together? Like, what's the story and how you guys found each other?
It's actually, that's a really funny story. I've had to go through a lot of lineup changes. See, I'm a graduate now of Berklee College of Music, and what happened is I came into Berklee. I wanted to be like, you know, of course, like when I came in, I didn't even want to be a songwriter at the time. I just wanted to be the most technical guy ever. I wanted to be like John Petrucci mixed with like Ulian Roth. And I said, well, I could be Ulian Roth, but even like more technical than Uli. Like I could take that neoclassical style even more to the next level than, you know, Uli or Yngwie. That was like my whole thing. I wanted to do that. I wanted to be able to have that tremolo picking action, you know, like John Petrucci, where he just has that ridiculous like stuff going on. You know, I just wanted to be able to do everything. And, you know, when I came to Berklee, you know, at a certain point, I mean, I was always into those guys, and I always like all guitar players, but like, I think it was around maybe 9th grade. You know, I was a freshman in high school, and I think that's when I heard Dokken for the first time. I was early on. I was into like a lot of like, you know, kind of the big four, you know, Slayer, Metallica, you know, Anthrax, and, you know, all those Megadeth, and, you know, I like Marty Friedman, and I liked a lot of like that kind of stuff, and I got more into the 80s hair metal stuff about like about 9th grade ish, and I was still into everything, but what really changed it is I think I heard Queensryche on the radio, and then later I heard Dio. And then later I heard Dokken, and I was like, those became my top 3 favorite bands: Dio, Dokken, and Queensryche. Those were my, like, for all throughout high school from then on. I was like, that was it, because I was listening to guys like Satriani, you know, and you know, who were really melodic and yet who were still really nasty on guitar. And then I also listened to guys like, you know, John Petrucci, and, you know, there was this like technical style guitar that really originated from like the 80s in some ways. I mean, even though it kind of existed before then. Like, I mean, you have like Clapton and Hendrix and all the guys from the late 60s. Then you have the guys in the 70s who were like fusion guys, and certain rock players who were taking things to the next level. But a lot of those guys turned out to be fusion guys, like Al Di Meola, Alan Holdsworth, and all those guys. But like, what really wasn't like the 80s, like that's really when you had all those technical rock guitar players. And when I first heard Dokken, I heard a band that had harmony vocals like Iron Maiden. Like, yeah, it was in my dreams, and I was like listening to this, I'm like, wow, they got the tri-harmony vocals, like awesome vocals, and then they have this, and then I was like, well, this song's really good, but let's hear the guitar player. Then I heard, you know, it was In My Dreams solo, and I was like, wow. It was like, this guy is almost like if you took, like, he's almost like Eddie Van Halen, but like kind of Satriani like, because he's like, you know, melodic, and he's got all these like elements that I like, and, you know, he's kind of got some older school stuff like Billy Gibbons. I mean, you can hear all that in his playing, and, you know, I really got into the 80s metal stuff at that time, and all throughout high school, I never found anybody, you know, I'm from Seattle, so I never found anybody who ever wanted to do any of that, because, you know, in Seattle, there was one guy that I was in a band with. They weren't very good, but there was a band called Trash Queen, and it was this guy, who I met in high school, and I wasn't playing for very long, so he wanted to do kind of a hair metal thing. It was more of a Motley Crue thing. I mean, we didn't do much, but, you know, I really got into the 80s hair metal type stuff a little bit later, more, you know, and stuff. So I really wanted to make a band like that, because it wasn't just like, oh, I just want to make hair metal, but what I heard in that kind of style of metal is, you know, I heard, a lot of metal nowadays, it's all like you hear screaming, you hear, like a lot of the gent bands. And I don't have anything against those bands or anything like that, but I always felt that there were some elements that were missing in today's metal that, like especially the rock and roll element. That I think needed to be brought back. And I was always like, well, I'd love to do a band like that or a power metal band too, because I loved Hammerfall. That's like one of my favorite bands. So I always like that power metal because they had the big vocals and all that stuff. But, what made me get started with that is, I was going to Berkeley trying to form any kind of band, just trying to either or get into a band. And I think the first guy I met who ended up being in the band was Dan, our drummer. And, I remember I just saw him on the street and he had this hair that was like the, Kip Winger haircut. And I came up to him and I said, hey man, I said, do you play like metal? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, but I don't really play the metal. I play the, metal with the high screams. And I was like, oh man, I said, we should like get together and do something. At the time he was in high school and I was like in my first year of Berkeley. So I wasn't able to get in contact with him right away. Later he came into Berkeley and I had already started with this band with this other guy, really, really good drummer, Kostas, who actually ended up playing, he's like done an album with Firewind, from Gus G's band, the guy from Ozzy, and I was putting that band, I was trying to put something together, and so first I met him, who I was going to, who said he'd be down to do. He said he was a big Whitesnake fan. Then I got, then at like a multicultural festival, I met this girl Adrian, who was our first singer, and she was also into that, And and then I re-met Dan again. But at the time, Dan wasn't in the band, so we got this guy, JP, on bass. So we started trying to put this thing together, and it was supposed to be kind of like Dokken, Whitesnake, and all this stuff. And, when I first started, like, trying to put that together, the goal was just to get gigs and to do cover songs and stuff like that. And even though I had ideas of maybe doing some songs, I definitely wanted to write originals at a certain point. But like the idea was just to get gigs and just play shows and stuff. And I just wanted an opportunity to go out and play some of my favorite music, Dokken, all this stuff. And so, pretty soon Kostas actually had to leave. And he went back to New York or Greece or wherever he had to go at the time. And then we got Dan, and Dan was actually a really good jazz drummer also, as well as being a really good rock drummer. And see, I had never heard him before though, so I was kind of like, well, let's see how this is, you know what I mean? He looks the part. I haven't heard him, but I've also dealt with other guys who look like metal guys who didn't actually end up really playing that way. I have dealt with that before, and it's weird. But so I got Dan in, and first thing is he was perfect for the band. He was one of those drummers that you hear play like. You hear some guys and they're metal drummers and they hit hard, kind of, but they're very controlled. And I'm not saying Dan isn't controlled, but he really lets loose, and he knows all the '80s hair metal nuances. See, and he was like the perfect fit. And then later on, of course, Adrian went on to do her own band, and and stuff. And then when she left, the bassist who was in her band at the time also left. So we eventually got Lily, I was actually going to be in her band at the time, which is funny. She was starting a kind of a hair metal-ish band, she wanted to do at the time. And I was going to be in her band. And then when Adrian left, I brought her in, and I mean, what really sold me was I heard a cover that she did of Rainbow in the Dark by Dio. And I don't like to let a whole lot of people get away with singing Dio. Not a whole lot of people can do that for me. I mean, there are a lot of guys who fake their way through who just kind of yell, and you're like, that's not Dio, Mm-hmm. Whereas when I heard her, and you're like, wow, she sings Dio, and it's like, it's good, And I was like, well, you're in. And so we got that band. And then Steve was a guy that he was playing in a local band around Boston called Chirality, and they were really good. And I always respected him because he was a good bassist and a really good singer. He was the lead singer of that band. And I said, I'm looking for a new bassist. I said, man, I'd really like it if you wanted to go play with us, and stuff like that. But and so he said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And so, he's actually a guitar player mainly, but he actually graduated as a guitar performance major, but he ended up he's a really good bassist, just an overall good musician and stuff. So I got this band together, and at this point, like, it was really good, and I had already started to record the first song ever, which was "Fanning the Flames," and when we recorded that song, it was like the first hair metal song I ever wrote. Besides Hurricane was another one, was like the first one I ever wrote too, but it wasn't recorded yet. So we recorded that, and then so from then on we just been doing that. So like, yeah, I mean, it's been my original material. So I guess that's how Dirty Lyxx formed. I know it's very detailed. I just went into like a lot of detail about it, but that's pretty much how it formed. It's just kind of been me always trying to make that happen, because I always wanted there to be these musical elements that are missing in today's music, in my opinion. And I'm not like just trying to be like, well, back in the old days. I'm not saying that. I want to do something. I wanted to do something new, but I wanted that vocal, like the powerful vocals, and I wanted the big drums, the powerful drums. Like, you hear that, and it's like, that's rock and roll. It's like that's heavy metal. It's like, you see the big amps, the big sound, the big power chords, and then you have the great, like, the awesome leads. And, I like all the other stuff too. Like, I like the, death metal. I like all these other things. But, the problem is nowadays is nobody's doing really the hair metal thing. And it's not like I'm sitting there saying, oh, well, we're going to put it's just going to be hair metal, because of course I'm influenced by all those other things, but I just wanted to make a really, really good band that was like influenced heavily by that 80s stuff, because I really like harmony vocals, and that's something that's missing from nowadays metal. It's like all those vocals, like, it's so important. It's melody, and that lead guitar playing, that's, like that one guitar band. I wanted to have the one guitar band, because a lot of guys have the Iron Maiden thing where they do the two guitar band. And I love that sound too, but it's like, listen to Eddie Van Halen, listen to Randy Rhoads, listen to like George Lynch, all those, like, when they're in their band, like Ozzy. It's like with Jakey Lee, even, it's like in Zakk Wylde. It's like, you listen to those guys, it's like that's a sound that does not exist really anymore. You don't hear that anymore. Whether, it's like everything's two guitars, and it's a big fat sound, but it doesn't sound the same. And, I also think that just like there are elements that I want to hear again. It's like when I bought an album, when I bought Machine Head, you look at it and you're like, wow, look at this album. You're like, wow, and you listen to it and you're like, it's like a whole thing. It's like a whole package, and it's like, nowadays it's kind of like everybody's kind of downloading like one or two songs, and that's cool. But, I really wanted to bring back that element too, of having an awesome album cover, having, all these things. I just wanted like a complete package of a band, and a lot of people aren't doing that. A lot of people are kind of like doing kind of like, I don't know. I just want to bring back like those elements. What the goal of Dirty Lyxx for me has always been to make like as much as it is for everybody else, it's for me, because like I don't really hear too many bands, not that many. There are a few who I like really want to listen to again, and I really feel that strongly when I first started buying records. Back in like middle school, when I first, you first buy like Kill 'Em All, and you're like, wow, and you listen to it, you know what I mean, like all that stuff. Am I going off on a tangent, or
really quick? Something that I did once that I think it will totally resonate with is the first time I was in Montreal. I was like, you know what? I heard. I'm trying to remember the guy's name from Queensrÿche. It just lost me, but he was living in Montreal when he came up with the idea for Operation Mindcrime. And he was
wow.
He was on St. Catherine Street looking at one of the churches that they have there. And I was on St. Catherine Street. It was raining. It was very low cloud coverage. It was just kind of spitting. It was nighttime. There was the glow of the clouds coming back down from the city lights. And there's this church. And I'm just like, no fucking way. I'm like, no way. So I just pull up my iPhone, pull up Operation Mindcrime, and I just sat there and listened to the entire album staring at this church. And it was one of the most powerful experiences I think that I've ever had.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's something about those old tunes back when guitar solos were cool, back when vocals were cool, just layering in those vocals, bringing extra platefuls of the reverb onto the snare drum and to the kick so that you can get a bigger drum sound, like, for example, on the Black Album, reconstructing the entire studio to make the drum sound as big as possible, replacing the skins on the drums sometimes 5 times for each song because of how hard he wanted Lars to hit the snare and how hard he wanted to kick, the kick drum and things like that. So a lot of that is due to technology and speed and things like that. There's a lot more drum machines being used now, for example, than before that was drum triggers, et cetera, right? But definitely bringing something back. And I'm curious, what inspired the name Dirty Lyxx? And we kind of mentioned a little bit about songwriting, but when you guys get together to write songs, what's that process like? So kind of 2 questions. What inspired Dirty Lyxx, and what's it like when you guys get together to write songs?
Well, okay, so first when it comes to the songs, basically they're most of them, at least so far, have been my songs that I've written. Usually it's I like come up with I just like come up with an idea or something happens and it's a creative process where like over a period of time it's usually all me writing the songs, and I'm not just trying to be like, oh, it's all me. What I mean is like usually I come up with like either a riff or I come up with lyrics or one or the other, and like, or I might put them together. Maybe they come at the same time as a gradual thing. It just depends. So far it's been me writing. It's been basically all my lyrics. So Fanning the Flames was all me. I wrote all the lyrics and I did the arrangement and everything. I had written the entire thing in GarageBand, before, and I just like had a little UX2 that they give us at Berkeley. It's a little interface, and basically I just put on like a crappy drum machine that was like, and then like I just like recorded the riff, and then it was all the chord progressions. I came up with the arrangement basically, and then I brought it to the band, and the band, of course, Dan would be on his drums, and he would be like, yeah, and then he comes up with all the fills and all the things like. Especially, they're all instrumental in the arrangement to a degree, but it's mostly like, oh, well, let's put halftime here. Like in Fanning the Flames, he and Steve were like, yeah, let's do like halftime, like after the solo or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve especially is instrumental in that. And Dan, and Steve will often talk back and forth with me, about the arrangements. So like I'll be like, well, this is my song, and then Dan will go, oh, it'd be really cool if we did like if I put this in here, or and then Steve will go, you know what? Like on Hurricane, he said originally the bridge was before the solo. He said, well, why don't you put the bridge after the solo? So he'll do that. Like he'll like make suggestions that way. Also in lyrics, since I'm not really like, at least until more recently, I haven't really been a singer, especially a lead vocalist. Steve was a vocalist. He is also able to, like, on Hold Tight, for example, he added lyrics to Hold Tight to make it more like less of like a poem and more lyrical. More lyrical sounding. But I don't always need help that way. It's just like on Hold Tight, he'll help me. He'll help me whenever I need help, on like, as in like, he'll suggest something like he'll like, the original lyric for Hold Tight was, it actually started out, being a song back when Adrian was in the band, and, she actually wrote the chorus, Hold Tight, Hold Tight. And then I added all the other lyrics, which were the verses and everything. And then Steve took a look at the verses and said, oh, yeah, instead of Hellhound on Wheels breathing fire, Demon of Speed, and all that stuff, he was like, well, instead of doing that, why don't you put Hellhound on Wheels breathing out a cone of fire? So he'll like add like a little things, like little things, but it's mainly my lyrics. Like, so Fanning the Flames is all me, and like Hurricane is all me. You know what I mean, lyrically, but except for the fact that he moved the bridge later and stuff. So it kind of works like that. It's kind of like it's my songs, and then I bring them in, and the guys like will fiddle with them, and then they'll suggest things, or they'll listen to it, and they'll come up with ideas of whatever, this, that, and other thing. I mean, that's at least the case with the EP. When it comes to the Whitesnake cover, that was, of course, like, that was my idea. I was like, well, I think that Lily's voice would work really well for Fool for Your Loving, because Fool for Your Loving, they did an older version of that, which was really cool. And I think it had Ian Pace on drums, and it's like a grooving, like, it's kind of almost like R&B. It's like, it's got that like soul beat, and then it's got like this really awesome bass line, and it's just a really cool version of the song. It's so funky. The old Whitesnake bluesy version. Yeah, it's so cool. And then later they did it with Steve Vai and Adrian Vanderberg, and it's like, that version's also, it's heavy, and it's awesome. They have the big car in the video going or whatever, and it's like more of a pop version. But what I like about that one is the guitar riff is kind of a little bit more unique. It's not like Justin G kind of doing like the original was kind of in G. It was kind of doing the Smoke on the Water type of thing. Whereas in the version Steve Vai is an A, and so I kind of wanted to take those two versions and put it together and add a little Zakk Wylde in there. So I tuned my guitar down a whole step, and it's basically an A, but it's in G. So it's like the original, which is in G, but it's played like it's an A. So it was kind of like a mix between both of those. And I mean, and it sounds like us. So, it's kind of like that. So, yeah. We have some other songs that haven't been recorded yet, that like this one new one, that hasn't really been completed. That's pretty much it was my riff, and then Steve kind of came up with some lyrics, and I came up with some lyrics that we haven't completed yet. And we have this one song that didn't make the EP. We didn't have enough time to record it. There was a whole thing with the guy who helped produce, who was the engineer, and he moved to Spain, and we didn't have enough time to record that last song to get it on the EP. But we had another one that I mean, it's written, but we just never put it on there, and so hopefully that will go on the next album or whatever. And so that one again is my lyrics, and I had again, I think I ran it over with Steve when it comes to arrangement, and he helped me do a little bit of the arrangement. He has a really good ear of just organizing things. He's a good problem solver too, and stuff like that. And so is Dan, and so I guess that's kind of how it goes. I don't know how else to describe it. That's pretty much how it's been so far. It's been my lyrics and my writing and everything. So
very cool, very cool. Speaking of your lyrics and your writing, let's go ahead and listen to the first track, "Hold Tight."
Devil
right, coming back from Hold Tight. Let's talk about that. What was the inspiration behind Hold Tight?
Hold Tight. Okay, so like I said, the original idea was that I came up with this riff that was kind of like a George Lynch-ish riff, but it was like different. It was all downstrokes, like kind of almost like I wouldn't call it Metallica-y, but it's like all downstroke type thing. It's like I mean, other like it's kind of like Stand Up and Shout by Dio, like that kind of sound, like more of a, I guess you could call it almost like just a heavy metal song, like, you know, like with the downstrokes, and you know, but it's got that flat five like the Lynch thing, and you know, I just kind of came up with that riff, and I always thought it was good, and I came up with the other parts, and I had another riff that was an E, that was the chorus, you know, and I thought, well, you know, it'd be really cool. I like songs that, like, maybe we shouldn't, like, I don't want songs that all stay in one key, and these two riffs work really well modulating together. So I remember when I brought it in, I was like, hey, I got a new song. You guys want to try it out? So I just started playing, and you know, it was awesome. It sounded good with the band, and it was a good band song. And right away, Dan was coming up with all these awesome rhythms, like all this stuff, you know, and you know, we had a rockin' song, and then Adrian at the time was singing, you know, oh, hold tight, you're gonna lose your heart and your mind, and that was what she came up with. And then when she left the band, well, she had a whole like lyrics of it too. Like, I didn't really like. No offense to her, I didn't really like the lyrics. I thought they were kind of like I'm not insulting her lyrics, because her lyrics are good in her own band stuff. But I just felt that, like, it was kind of face value. Like, it wasn't as deep. It was kind of like it wasn't what I felt about the song. You know what I mean, about the riff. And what I felt was it was like a hard driving rock song, and I felt like, hold tight. Hey, that's like a motorcycle, man. You know, hold tight. You know. And so what the song became was more about riding a motorcycle, and it's about freedom. You know, it's about, you know, and I had a friend at the time I was living with, and he was really into motorcycles, and he knew everything about, like, being like the bikers and stuff like that. And, you know, he was always telling me about, like, you know, his name was Mike, and I mean, his name is Mike, you know, and I lived with him, and he was always talking to me about, like, motorcycles and freedom, and, you know, it's about, like, living free and all that stuff. And so I said, you know, that's really kind of like what it sounds like to me. And I wrote this song, and at the time I was also going out with this girl, and, you know, I kind of felt like, you know, it's like a song about a guy who's on a motorcycle who's taking this girl on a ride with him, you know, and they're riding out, and they don't care what happens. Like, they don't care, you know, who judges them in the world, you know, how, like, it is in the world and stuff like that. You know, they don't care about anything. No second thoughts, no regrets, no second thoughts. We leave them behind in the smoke and dust. That's what it is. It's like, you know, that's it. Like, it's just us. We are the only ones that matter, and we're going to be free together. And we're, you know, that's it. That was the lyric. It was supposed to be all about, like, a relationship kind of, but freedom, you know. It's like, you know, it's like you forget everybody else, you know. And you know, it's kind of, at the beginning of the song, it kind of describes the guy, you know, and him being on a motorcycle is kind of like a demon of speed, you know what I mean? And she's not like as much of that kind of person, you know, but he's taking her on a ride, you know. Fantastic. To a degree, in some ways too. So that's kind of what the inspiration behind Hold Tight was, I guess.
Yeah, bringing a girl with you, showing her your brand of experiencing the world, which is, hey, baby, I'm all about freedom. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. We're just going to keep rocking and rolling. So go ahead and hop on back, and let me show you how we can be free together. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Boom. And yeah, I mean, I like that song. You know, what I like about it's a real just fun rockin' tune, because it's probably it's kind of a little more like a band song too. Just the fact that, like, I didn't, like, completely record it originally and then have people come in. I came up with the riff and I brought it into the band, and then everybody just started playing. So it's a little bit more free, I think. You know, it's kind of like a little bit more more band sounding, more Metallica, Motorhead-ish. You know what I mean? Like that like more band sounding. You know what I mean? As opposed to songs that. I mean, it is song sounding, but like it's hard to describe that. Like that's the only way I know how to describe it. That the feel of the tune, you know.
Fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and go into.
That's cool.
Yeah, let's go ahead and go into the second track, "Fanning the Flames."
Change your mind about who I really am. Is it the way that I look at you? Don't you know what I can't wait? I'm really just a friend. I just don't know to get to play. You know my love is true. Why don't you treat me like a fool? Don't want me fall to the ground. All I want is to hold you close, but you don't want me around. You have to follow my spells. I should just try to move on. I think I really just pretend and say that the feeling is gone. You know my love is true. Treat me like a fool. Casting all my things to the wind, and you're fanning the flames of my heart. Adding fuel to the fire within, and you're fanning the flames of my heart. Casting all my things to the wind, and you're fanning the flames of my heart. Adding fuel to the fire within, and you're fanning the flames. I'm just so tired of the teasing. Upon your flesh I will, yeah. Take this chains of my heart. Find the flames, yeah, to watch me
All right, coming back from Fanning the Flames, now that we've got all this scorching heat, we can go ahead and bring some more of that heat in while you fan those flames. What was the inspiration behind Fanning the Flames?
What was the story? The story, that's actually a funny one. And for me, that's my favorite song on the record is Fanning the Flames, because it was the first one that we did, and I remember when I first wrote it, it was about this girl, you know, who, and this is going to sound kind of cliche, but it's not. It's not to me. It's about a girl that really broke my heart. I mean, telling you, that was hard. It took, yeah. So like, it's basically about a girl that I had a really awful crush on. I mean, it was so bad. It was so bad, and she really didn't want anything to do with me, I don't think, but like she did certain things to kind of lead me on, and it was like I remember at the time like there were, I mean, when I it really like it, I was crushed when everything went down, you know, like not that anything bad happened, but like when like it was finalized that would never ever happen between us, I was like so devastated. I remember. I was like so sad, and I was angry, and I wrote this song, "Fanning the Flames." You know, it's you falling in and falling out. Like first, it seems like you're there. Sometimes, and then it seems like you're not. You know, suppose you don't give a damn. What can I do to change your mind about who I really am? You know. Because she obviously thought, like, you know, I'm like nobody, you know, I'm not anybody, you know, and stuff like that, you know. You see the way I look at you, then you turn and walk away, and, you know, am I really just a friend? Because this is this girl who's kind of supposed to be my friend too, you know. Am I really just a friend or just another game to play, you know? You know my love is true, so don't treat me like a fool. You know, you're casting all my dreams to the wind, and you're fanning the flames of my heart, you know, adding fuel to the fire within. You know, you're adding fuel to the fire within, and you're fanning the flames of my heart. You know, that's what that's about. I mean, it's honestly exactly what the song says. You know, like exactly what the lyrics are. And that was such a big. It seems funny because I've been through that kind of thing before. I mean, we've all been through that kind of crushes, but I've never had a crush quite like this one. It was not. It was really bad. So, I mean, you know, anyway, that's what the song is about. And that was the first one that we did, you know, and I mean, I was really proud of it at the time because every time I hear it, I'm like, yeah, because like, it is something that happened to me, and it was something that hurt my feelings, but it led to something really positive happening. And it's kind of like a blues song that way, you know. It's like something bad happens, you write about it, and it's like, you know, it's not one of these oh woe is me type songs. That's not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like when you listen to it, you're like, yeah, I've been through that before. I hear you, man. I hear you. You know, like I felt that pain before, and the idea is that something like that happened, you know, turns into something positive, and that's kind of what Fanning the Flames means to me, and that's why it's my favorite song. And in my opinion, that's also my best guitar solo on the record, which is funny because that one was my first one, and I did it in like I think it was the second take that we took, and that was it.
Fantastic.
So, yeah,
there was some heartbreak, turning it into. I think catharsis is the word, right? Turning it into something that works for you and it works for the world in a positive way. I think that's a really positive message too for Rock Metal Nation listening in. Is we all have days. It's not like anybody's day is perfect. We all have our situations, you know. But what are you going to do with it? You're going to take a negative situation and try to make other people's days worse, or can you go ahead and give people something of value? Which I really appreciate that. Obviously, you made that song, and anybody else who's had a crush and had those similar feelings can definitely, you know, recognize where it is that you're coming from and feel very connected to Dirty Lyxx in a way that if you had written about something more superficial, then there would be no connection, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What exciting news Dirty Lyxx has coming down the pipeline?
Well, what's great is we have, we have a few gigs that are, you know, kind of coming up in the summer, but the plan is that we're going to actually end up going on tour soon. And I'm planning on actually, you know, saving up my money and doing it this winter. and we might even be doing it on the West Coast this winter. We'll see. I don't really know yet. I'm still ironing out the details, but I'm planning on doing that and maybe even doing some tour dates, like doing a tour on the East Coast in the spring. I mean, if I can afford that and if I can get everything together for that. But we're definitely planning on, like, maybe this winter doing something on the West Coast. Definitely better than East Coast winter, at least in Boston, where it's like, I mean, we get like a lot of snow, So it'd be nice to be on the West Coast, like in California, doing a bunch of shows, like doing tour, in the winter, then doing it in the East Coast, and then in the spring going to the East Coast. It makes a lot of sense. So that's what we're planning on doing, hopefully. And we have a new we've been filming a music video. Right now, it's kind of on hold because the girl who was working on it is actually going to the Netherlands, and she's working on this really cool video by this folk metal band called Heidevolk, and they're like Dutch and they sing in their own language, and that's cool. They're kind of like an Encifrum type, like folk metal band. That's like really cool. But anyway, she got really busy with that because that was her. She already had that booked, meaning a long time ago before we even met each other and stuff. So like we were gonna end up doing some things, but there were some things that happened that got in the way. There was somebody that got sick and couldn't do it right away. So we're right now. I'm looking with this other guy who might be filming the rest of the music video for us. So we're planning on making a video for Fanning the Flames as well as Hold Tight.
Fantastic.
So that's what we're getting. We're hopefully eventually going to make a video for Hurricane, maybe, but like really, I'm really looking for Fanning the Flames and Hold Tight.
Awesome. We've got a West Coast tour in the summer in the works, and we've got 2 music videos that are going to be coming down the pipeline.
In the winter.
Winter? Okay.
West Coast in the winter, yeah.
Okay, West Coast in the winter. Sorry about that. And then filming 2 music videos, so expecting those at some point. Fanning the Flames and Hold Tight. How can Rock Metal Nation find out more about you?
Yeah, you can find out. Rock Metal Nation can find out more about Dirty Lyxx by you can either look us up on Twitter. Pretty much everything's posted on Twitter. You can look up our Facebook. I would definitely recommend that too. We post a lot on Facebook, Twitter, any kind of social media. We post a little bit on YouTube. We need to probably post more videos, but we have our lyric videos up there, and we're gonna eventually post the music videos up there. But we'll just definitely keep you posted. Just keep in touch via social media. We have Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. You can look us up on there. I have my personal Instagram and personal Twitter too, and I post information about the band in there too and all that stuff. And you can just look it up on there or whatever, So
very cool. All right, Rock Metal Nation, go ahead and look up Dirty Lyxx on Twitter or Facebook, whichever one you use the most. You can also check out their lyric videos and soon-to-be music videos on their YouTube page. Once again, look for Dirty Lyxx, and that is DIRTYLYXX. So, like, nice little twist on Lyxx. So, Alika, just wanted to thank you for coming on and sharing your creativity with Rock Metal Nation. And, my God, sir, rock on.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us on the show. I really appreciate it. You want me? I can call you John.
Yeah, you can call me John.
Yeah. Thank you so much, for having us on, and I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. It was really nice talking, and I love talking metal. I love talking hard rock, and I'm really happy to be on the podcast. So thank you so much. Oh, Rock
Rock Metal Nation, what is happening? It is John coming at you in this closure to episode 7 with Dirty Lyxx. So hopefully you, Rock Metal Nation, just found your new favorite band. Thanks again to Dirty Lyxx for coming on and sharing their expertise with the rock metal world. Just want to let you know that we do have a website. If you head over to therockmetalpodcast.ca, you can go ahead and check out the show notes as well as information on all of the other bands. So in the meantime, Rock Metal Nation, keep it rock and keep it real. I don't know what to say. What do I do with my hands? What do I do with my hands? My first interview. What do I do with my hands? Seriously, stay metal, Rock Metal Nation.